Oh, man, we're on. We're live. I love it. Oh, what a great weekend. I myself had a great weekend. We were able to spend some time together, my wife and I, and we had some friends over. We had a great cookout. We had lots of fun, lots of good conversations. It was phenomenal. So I hope you had a great weekend as well. Really, I want to make sure that we all are taking those weekends, and especially now for me being in Ohio with the weather being as it was this weekend was phenomenal. So just love that. Love all the interaction that we've had over the years and what we're doing here with the Vision Alignment Show. In the Vision Alignment Show, just as a recap, I want to make sure you all understand that it's very important to understand how your vision needs to be aligned with your core beliefs, your core values. To understand what you're doing and how you're doing it needs to be in line. And if you can be in line, you can be awesome. You can be killing it. Just like the back of my shirt says, you should see me from the stage. Anyway, so somebody that knows a lot about vision, knows a lot about vision alignment is our guest today. And our guest today is somebody that is just amazing. He's a great guy, and he does so much for so many people. I can't tell you how much I appreciate having him on. I appreciate him being with us today. You're going to learn a lot, and I guarantee you that you're going to enjoy this conversation. So without any further ado, let me bring on our guest, Mr. Terry Brock. Hey!
Hello there. Brian, good to be with you today.
It's great to have you on, Terry. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, I am honored to be here with you. Let's make some magic today.
We got it. You got it. So, Terry, let me ask you a question. When is your first recollection of knowing your vision?
First recollection of knowing my vision. Well, let's see. I probably have had several visions, but I think the one probably related more than anything to my being a professional communicator, as a professional speaker and communicating, was when I was in the audience once with the National Speakers Association. And I remember a friend of mine and a past president, CSP, CPAE, Cabinet Award recipient, Al Walker, was there. And he talked about being a communicator. And what we do is we help people, we give spoken word messages. And I realized at that moment, yeah, that's what I want to do. Everything I had done in my life led up to that. As a little kid, doing some things in church and standing up in front of people and speaking a little bit, speaking in school, being in drama, all of those things that I had done, and then going on for school and the degrees I got and everything, seemed like it all came together to say, hey, this is what I need to do. And so I've come to define myself as a CSP. And I don't necessarily mean a certified speaking professional, although I am one of those, and I recommend it for those that are in it. I see myself as a communicator who solves problems. And I think that's what we all have to do. And as we do that, then that gives us a clear vision, and we say, okay, now we can proceed forward. We see where we need to be. We've got insight. We can go for it and make it happen.
Wow. If you want to hear more, stay right there. Wow, Terry, you've got a great story. I had no idea.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's just this is who we are, and it's what we do, and I enjoy getting out there in the world and doing the communication in several different forms. Yes, we can speak in front of people with a microphone, and they're present with us there. That's good, but we also communicate in other ways. Like right now, you and I are using StreamYard. We're getting the message out, going out, as I like to say, going out to all these different destinations at the same time, and not only that, doing it simultaneously. So we get both of them that way, but we communicate in many different ways. And so I think that's what we look at ourselves as.
Yeah, well, that's great. Terry, what do you think is the biggest factor in your success?
Well, gee, I don't know. For me, I feel I'm constantly having to earn that every day. And so it's something that is a combination of skills. And I think it's constantly saying, okay, I got to go back and start all over again. I was reading a book this morning called Mastery by Robert Greene. And he talks about key people and influential people throughout the centuries. And they constantly learned from others. They learned doing apprenticeships and doing study on their own, doing study with others. And I think that's the real key. For me, I've always loved reading. When I was a little kid, Mom would take us to the library. They're just up the road from you. They're in Michigan, lower mid Michigan. And she'd take us to the library and it was like, wow, look at all these books. And so as a little kid, when I was like first, second grade learning how to read, I thought someday I want to read all of these books. And thinking, okay, yeah, well, I had to revise that after a while. But I think that reading is one of those things that's really good. And as we continue to feed our mind with good information, it's phenomenal. And today we're really lucky to be around where we are. Brian, you picked a very good time to be born because now with the internet, all the information that's available, the sounds we can hear, the books on audio, books and video, the videos that are out there, all the capabilities of reaching people around the world, I think it's pretty incredible just to be alive today.
Oh, yeah, I agree. I agree. And Michigan is not a bad place to be either.
Yeah.
Well, Terry, I mean, there's so many questions that I want to ask you, but I guess for you, I mean, obviously, you talked a little bit about your CSP. You're a certified speaking professional. You're also a CPAE, which is a Council Peers Award of Excellence. Right?
Yeah, very good.
That's huge because, man, that's what we call in the speaking world. We call the Hall of Fame for speakers, yes. And that is amazing. But beyond that, you've also been awarded the CAVIT, which is the holy grail of the speaking community. And that is an award that was given out originally by Kelly Robert, who started the National Speakers Association, which now we're over, 2,000-3,000 people in the organization, which is incredible that you received that award. So
thank you.
How did that make you feel?
Oh, I was flabbergasted. We don't know when we get it. And I knew there was going to be I knew a lot of other people that I felt were richly deserving of it. And it certainly wouldn't go to me until I heard my name. And I thought, what? And then all of a sudden, the room started spinning around. I've had all the people standing up and coming over and hugging me. And the room is spinning. Kind of like I read in a book once, Brian, that people could have the room spin around if they have certain kinds of adult beverages. I read that in a book once. Yeah. But really, that was what's happening. And then the real scary part was as I'm trying to gather my thoughts, and there's people cheering and everything. It's great. It's noisy. And I'm walking up and going, Terry, you got to come up with something to say. What am I going to say? I don't know. You don't prepare for this at all. And so I'm walking up there and I'm thinking, I got to say something. Well, this is the National Speakers Association, and they're giving their highest award. You think you better be pretty good on this one there, Sparky. And the cameras are rolling and everyone's watching you, but you had zero preparation. So it was fun, but we make it through those things. And for me, it was just a real honor. I'm glad to be part of the National Speakers Association and meet wonderful people like you, Brian, where we get a chance to see each other and talk about the camaraderie of speaking, talk about the challenges that we go through so we can help each other. And it's a business organization, but also there's a lot of good, strong, emotional friendships that are established through the years. And I'm just very grateful to be a part of that.
Yeah, I agree. It's important to understand, what you speak on, that's part of it, but also how you deliver it, just in normal instances, everyday life, what kind of person you are. So that, to me, if you would talk a little bit about to the audience about what it is that we at the National Speakers Association we represent. What kind of people are we? Because I know what we are, but I want to hear you say it, and I want you to tell the audience.
Well, as I mentioned, we're communicators, and it started years ago when Cabot, Robert, and others put it together back in the 70s, that it was the idea of people speaking largely in person. Did not do a whole lot of podcasts back then. This was 1973 that it got started. And so they did their speaking, traveling around different places. Today, we have expanded to be more communicators because we do use tools like Restream, like StreamYard you're using here, and other tools. We also do a lot of podcasting. We also do a lot of coaching and consulting and other forms of delivering services. But we're solving problems. And I think that's the real key. If we can find ways that we can help people, we do it. And a big driving force of the National Speakers Association is what Cabot would say. He was very famous for saying, make the pie bigger. Find ways that instead of competing with each other and holding back, we're going to try to help. And we've called that the spirit of Cabot. And Cabot Robert came up with that, the idea of us helping others, going out of our way. And we've seen that in NSA for many, many years. I've been so grateful for the people who have helped me out. And I'm glad to be able to return the favor to others, kind of keep paying it forward. And I think that's the real spirit that makes NSA stand out exceptionally well.
It is a phenomenal place to be, because I have never experienced so many people that are so giving, so caring, so loving. I mean, it's just it's been great. So
yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah. Anyway, so obviously you've had hurdles along the way. There have been things that have gotten in your way. So if you would first tell us. What do you concentrate on? What do you speak on, if you will?
Well, one of the things that I talk about is using technology. I've been doing that for a long, long time. I mean, when I first got out of the MBA program, I was one of 500 billion MBAs that year. I'm thinking that's the exact number. Everybody doing it. So what am I going to do to stand out? Well, I taught myself how to use a newfangled thing back then called computers. And so I started working with that and learned how to take what they had told us in the MBA program about cash flow statements and pro forma income statements and all that, and figure out how to put it on one of these fancy schmancy new things called a spreadsheet. And got into that, started showing people how to do it, and then gradually have evolved in my career showing other kinds of technology, and then how that directly relates to business and how you can use that to build relationships. Because in business, the most important element is the relationships that you develop, where you're helping others, they're helping you, and we work together and we can really make the pie bigger, as Cabot has said. And I find that that's real important right now for me. It continues to change. Gina Carr, my partner, and I are doing a lot of focusing on Web3 and what Web3 is all about. What that means is with the non-fungible tokens, NFTs, and what in the world is that? And cryptocurrency and virtual reality. Virtual reality, by the way, Brian, is going to be huge for speakers, because of the capabilities that it has, moving us into other realms of reaching more and more people. So I see technology constantly changing. It's my job to figure out what is going to help my clients. And I like to go in there and show them, here's a technology that can help you serve your customers, serve your clients more, and be able to take the technology really to serve people and to build those relationships. That's what I'm all about, and plan to do that, but only for another 387,000 years. So then we'll reevaluate and probably continue on it even after that.
Yeah, that's an exact number, I'm sure.
Yes.
Just so you know, anybody that's online and if you're listening in, put in hashtag live. And if you're listening in live, you're listening on replay, put a hashtag replay. Tell us where you're coming in from. All that is really, really important to understand. So, and if you have any questions for Terry, please let us know. So, there. Well, a brief little commercial. Anyway, so Terry, what are some of the biggest challenges or obstacles you're still working on?
Well, I think it's constantly dealing with a world that is changing. What
Mhm.
has one of the challenges we have is when we've been around for a while. I've been speaking now for 38, 39 years, professionally speaking.
Whoa.
So you tend to think, okay, well, what worked before, we'll use the same things today. Well, I know with technology, of course, it's changing, but not only the technology changing, but also we see a lot of the ways of thinking and the ways of operating and doing business is changing. I think that our world has a lot of good with the technology, but also I'm concerned for some of the philosophy and philosophy of that has seeped into our culture, not only here in the United States, but other countries too, that doesn't align with reality. And I think what we've got to do is like you've done, you dealt with what happened to you. And you've been able to say, okay, I'm going to take that and leverage it into something that's even better, helping people with their vision, talking about what you've experienced, and then clarifying their vision so they can get more done. And I think that some of the challenges that we're going to face will be, how do we deal with that? And I think I go back to what the Marines say. United States Marines say, improvise, adapt, and overcome.
Yeah.
We learn what's happening, we accept it, we don't complain about it. I borrow from my buddy Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus and Seneca, people like that who are known as Stoics. And the idea is you focus on what you can change. What can you do right where you are? Teddy Roosevelt said it very well. Do what you can with what you've got right where you are. And I think that's what we have got to do. We've got to say, what can I change about this? 99.9% of the things out there, we can't change. It's not going to help me, or not going to help me to try and worry about what the knuckleheads in Washington did, or the knuckleheads in Ottawa, or Canberra, or London, Tokyo, whatever the capital might be. By the way, I find they all have plenty of knuckleheads. Just ask the
Yeah.
people that live in those countries.
Right. Right.
And I think, well, we've got to take control of ourselves. What can I do? I can control how many push-ups I'll do. I can control what I'm going to feed into my mind today, what I'll listen to. I can control a lot of those things, and that's what matters most. Rather than worrying about, oh no, this breaking news just in, bad thing happened over on this side of the world, or over on the west side of town last night, da 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 happened. Well, I can't control that. So I'm going to focus on those things that I can control, which is me, making me better, and being kind, being caring and loving to other people. Because I think as human beings, really that's what we need. And I think if we could do that, I feel like I'd love to get together with Putin and Xi Jinping and Joe Biden and other leaders and just say, okay, stop it. Enough. Stop it, kids. Or you're going to bed tonight without any dinner. Okay. Now
Uh-huh.
sit down and you're going to get along with each other. We're going to stop emphasizing the areas where we disagree and where there's fighting. And let's find those areas of commonality where we can work together, where we can help each other. And in business, we can do that kind of going back to what Cabot said again, making the pie bigger all the way around for everyone.
You touched on something a little bit. What you're reading these days? What are you reading?
Well, this morning I'm going over a book I've read a couple times. I like to go back and read them again. Mastery by Robert Greene. And I read another one of his books I've read probably 10 to 15 times in my life, but I love it. It's called The 50th Law. It was written by Robert Greene and 50 Cent, who also goes by Curtis Jackson. However,
Really?
I had not listened to much of his music. It's just not my thing, but I love his books. I love his way of approaching business and life. I would strongly recommend get that book, The 50th Law. That's one that they did together. And then Curtis Jackson has some others out. Hustle Smarter, Hustle Faster was one I read a little while back. Really, really good stuff. And I'm, a pasty white kid from the Midwest here saying this guy has got a lot of knowledge, a lot of information. I have a lot in common with Curtis Jackson, even though I've never met him and don't know him personally, but I just admire the daylights out of that guy.
Huh. Awesome. Well, that's good. Good. I appreciate that. Wow. Where to take the conversation here? I mean, you've done a lot. You obviously you've been very successful. You've been speaking for 39 years. How many years have you been a part of NSA with the National Speakers Association?
National Speakers Association. I joined in '88. And so that's 34 years or so right now. It was
88.
one of the smartest things I did. I had a decision to make. As a matter of fact, those of you that are watching this and listening to this, Every time, so often in life, situation comes along and you've got to make a decision. I was in a situation where I was speaking up in New York, and I spoke for, it was a Thursday, Friday, Saturday event. I spoke Thursday and Friday, various places there. And on Saturday morning, there was a speaker who I had heard of and I admired, and he was going to be doing the closing session. I think he was scheduled to go on at something like 8 o'clock or so, doing that. Well, I got there at 7 because I wanted to be sure and see him and meet him. And I got a chance to talk with him and understand a little bit about what he does. And he said, "Oh, are you a speaker too?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "Are you a member of the National Speakers Association?" I said, "What's that?" And he said, "Oh, it's a group of speakers around the country." And I said, "Well, really? Do you have chapters in different places?" Because at the time I lived in Atlanta. And he said, "Yes, we have one in Atlanta." And so he said, "Oh, here, let me do this." He wrote down the number 602-968-2552. And it was a 602 number at that time, not a 480 like it is today. But he wrote that down. And then I realized I have a decision to make. I had been speaking for 5 years on my own, just doing my own thing, stumbling around, doing what I could. And I thought, okay, Terry, you got to get involved. This doesn't mean just join. I need to get involved at the local level, particularly. I'll join the national, but I'll get involved in the local chapter, which at that time was called the Georgia Speakers Association. And I lived in the Atlanta area. That's where we met. And I made a decision to get involved. I went there the very first meeting. And as they went around the room, they had guests stand up. My heart was really beating fast. Here I'm with all these professional speakers. What am I going to do? Oh, I hope I'm good enough to talk to them. Well, I found some of the most caring, loving people there that have helped me throughout my life. And I find that that's what we really want to do. We want to make sure that we can radiate that good and then keep learning and keep growing from there.
So you met Kevin Robert.
Yes, I had a chance to meet him, talk with him a few times, and it was wonderful. Just a distinguished man who he was fascinated when I did a presentation once. I did a presentation on stage talking about technology and showing what we could do with it. And this new thing called, actually it wasn't new, but I'm saying a lot of people are now using it, called email. And here's what it is. When people would laugh and go, "Why do I need email? I've got mail. That's good enough. We don't need email." And I started showing, well, there's some benefits of that. And here's what you can do. And sometimes you can get a picture, put it up. That floored everyone too. I'd take a picture and then I put it up on the screen. They go, "How did you do that?" This was back in the days when we'd had a 39-cent special for double prints at Kmart. Ooh, that was something. I'm dating myself in several areas that way. But you realize, okay, we got to keep adapting. And so I always, the philosophy that I have then is find the technology that can help people, but begin with the end in mind, as Stephen Covey has told us. Yeah. Make sure that we say, okay, this is what we want to achieve. Well, the idea is, as a speaker, you want to provide a lot of information that is useful and relevant to people, that solves their problems, and doing it in a way that makes them feel good about it. That's what we have to do. Make sure that we use the appropriate amount of humor, the appropriate amount of stories, and conveying the message in a way that they say, "Wow, that is great. That Brian guy really knows how to make. Brian, can we pay you money to come speak at our meeting that's coming February? We need you here. We could really use you to do that." That's what our goal is, to make sure that we are helping others and solving those problems.
So how did that make you feel when you were in front of Kevin Robert and delivering this presentation, talking to him about email?
Oh, it was wonderful. It was great. I was glad to meet Cabot Robert and just get a chance to talk with him, and also Lynn, his daughter, and Lee, both the two daughters, and get a chance to get to know them. Now, Lee and Lynn are still with us today and telling us about something. I remember, matter of fact, it even hit me when I just had to come up spur of the moment when I received the Cabot with what I was going to say, but I recalled that Lee was telling me about Cabot using audio cassettes when they first came out. He was pushing the edge and using technology then, saying, "Hey, look, these things can actually record you better than a record. You can record this easier, and that way you can make more of them, and you can sell these in the back of the room." So it's a way to help people beyond just hearing your speech, but they have a way to take some of you home with them. And so they take your speech home. And so he was pushing the edge of technology in his day. I figure, okay, let's see what we can do to push the edge here in our day. With today doing things with Web3, with NFTs and technology like that.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit more about that, what you're doing there.
Well, the NFTs I think are incredible. They're called non-fungible tokens. You might think, well, what in the world does that mean? It's kind of like fungible means something is the same. For instance, if I said, Brian, here's a $10 bill. Do you have two fives? And assuming that there's no counterfeiting going on, they're real. You say, no problem. Yeah. And it wouldn't matter which $10 bill I gave you that was real or which $5 bills, because those are really fungible. Non-fungible, though, would be something like the Mona Lisa. I'm talking about the real painting of the Mona Lisa. Now we can get a picture of it. That's nice. And there's a lot of those out there, but there's only one real Mona Lisa and it's worth a lot of money. And they've got it over there in Paris. You can see it and it's guarded and all that. I get it. Also, something that's non-fungible would be your home, your address. You've got a given address for this house. Even if other houses in the neighborhood look the same, this is unique to you. And so with an NFT, it opens up an opportunity for instance, those of us that are speakers, where you can get something like we received from Joe Polizzi. He's well known for content marketing, a guru in that space up in Cleveland, and he had a ticket. He had a conference going on, and then there was a ticket you could get for the regular ticket, or another one that he called the NET, not an NFT, but not a never-ending ticket. And so you'd pay whatever it was, $1,000 for the regular meeting that we would go to there in Phoenix, or for around $2,000, you could get a never-ending ticket, which gave you access not only to that meeting, but every other meeting his organization will have forever. And you get backstage passes to the special guests, and you have inside meetings. So you have this NFT, non-fungible token, which he is calling a never-ending ticket. And that way you're building a base of fans. And by the way, if after 5 years you've had that, the price could go up or down based on what the market is saying. It's not set by Joe, it's set by the market. And when people say, hey, I think this is worth $5,000, you could take what you spent $2,000 for and get $5,000 back. You think, that's a pretty good thing. Plus you got all the goodies in between. Or it could go down as well. Say it's instead of $2,000, it goes down to $500. Still, you got all of this good from someone that is really smart, like Joe. He knows his stuff. He knows about content creation, does it very well. He's one of the best anywhere. And I figured, okay, that's what I want to do. So Gina and I both bought never-ending tickets. And think about that, Brian, how you could get people that love you. They want to be involved with you. In a way, it's kind of like they're buying stock in your company. Mm-hmm. If you could imagine it, something like that. There's some similar analogies there. And we're not making any financial advice here. I don't make financial advice. I do make educational advice, though. Mm-hmm. And I recommend studying the NFTs, see what they can do. An NFT can be used in so many different ways. And we're just getting started. In a way, it's kind of like we are now with that, where I was when I was telling people about email back in the late 80s and early 90s. Email had been around for a while, but it wasn't being used that often. And people say, yeah, okay, I don't even know. And I would say, oh, there's a website. It's http://www. And they'd interrupt and go, Terry, please speak English. Because they didn't understand it. Well, today we're hearing terms like NFT and cryptocurrency and Bitcoin. I'm often a master of ceremonies at Bitcoin conferences around the world. I go in and I speak and show, here's what's going on now. Here's what's happening. And there's some terms that we don't know about. There's some terms that sound goofy and funny. And yes, a lot of people are going to put out coins that they create, and they're not going to be worth much at all, if anything. But there's still a core that's there with Bitcoin, blockchain, and that kind of technology that's really good. And all of those things start coming together in what we call Web 3. And it is going to change and is changing our world right now.
Wow. That's a whole other world for me, anyway. I mean, maybe there's some listeners and have questions when I talk about some specifics to that. But for me, I guess one of my things, my only questions I have, and I can't believe we're already almost at the end of our time. But one of the questions I have is in regards to your blind spots. Who helps you to see your blind spots, and who helps you? Well, not who helps you, but I mean, how do you overcome them?
Oh, that's important because we all have them, like you said, and we need people that we can trust, people that we get to know, they're with us, and they can come up and say, hey, you got this problem, or that thing you did. That's not the best you. I often say your real friends are the ones, if you're getting ready to go up on stage and you've got a splash of ketchup right about here on your throat or on a shirt right there, you don't see it, but others do. Your friends are the ones that are going to go, Terry, stop. You can't go up there looking like this. This is not good. They're telling you that. Your enemies are the ones that go, yeah, you're looking just fine. Go on up there. Yeah, right now. Have a good time. So we need people like that that can call us on our stuff. And we've all got our stuff. And we need to know people that can help us and be there. Again, I'll go back to NSA. Many of our dear friends have been there and have helped me and been able to pull me over and say, Terry, you need to turn this around, or don't do that again, or here's a better way to do that. You might try this. And done in a spirit of Cabot, the idea of giving back and helping others, I think is really what it's all about.
Wow. Awesome. Great stuff, Terry. So Terry, we need to let you get back to work. I know you've got a lot of stuff going on, but is there one thing you want to leave our audience with?
Yeah, I would say in the midst of everything going on right now in our world, all the yuck that's going on, I'm going to use that word. I think that's okay. I'm thinking of some more colorful military expressions, but we'll leave it at yuck right now. With all that's going on, we're aware of that. We see what's going on, but in the midst of that, we have it within ourselves to pull the very best, to study, to learn, to apply the technology, to be kind to people. When we disagree with someone on an issue, that we sit down and instead of going, no, and throwing our talking points at them as they throw their talking points back at us, we sit down and go, okay, hold it. I don't understand that right now, but tell me more about it from your point of view. I want to hear it from your point of view. I want to listen to that and understand why we believe that. And I found that when we do that, often we have an agreement with people to get to a certain goal. It's just that we have different methodologies that we try to deploy to get there. And if we could step back and analyze it, caring for each other, doing it compassionately and love and listening and being more curious, I think we can go really far with that. So in the midst of all the yuck going on, we don't give up. Now's the time to pivot from that and become even better because of all the yuck that's out there. I think that Marcus Aurelius said it really well, and Ryan Holiday wrote a book by this called The Obstacle is the Way. The obstacle that's in front of us is going to help us to get around. It's not just like we're going, oh, I'll endure it. No, we get tickled to death because there is an obstacle that's going to help us overcome. Brian, you have done that. You vividly show us that regularly. And on behalf of everyone that's listening and watching this right now, thank you, Brian, for what you have done and the way that you help us in so many ways. It's an honor to be with you, sir.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for being on today. I really appreciate you.
Well, it's great to do it, and let's do it again sometime.
It sounds good. I'm going to send you the green room if you don't mind, and then I'm going to come back and talk to you a little bit afterwards.
Sure. Is that kind of like back in school? I got sent to the principal's office so much. Terry Brock, report to the principal's office.
Something like that.
Something like that. Okay, I'll see you a little bit later.
Terry. See you in a bit. Oh. Incredible. A great conversation with Terry. Obviously, he says lots of nice things. So lots of people. He's that kind of guy. He's just a very caring and loving guy. Genuine, very genuine. So, thanks so much for being on today. I want to make sure that you know what we have coming up next week. We have Austin Grammon coming on, and he's been on the show before. He talks about SpeakerFlow and all the things he does with SpeakerFlow, but he's a lot deeper than that. So I want to make sure that you listen in for him. It's going to be great. I'm looking forward to that so much. Hopefully you are as well. And just remember that, as always, to keep one eye on the road.